what's going on, guys? Welcome back to Lineage Break, a Grand Archive TCG podcast. I am your host, Cam. With me, as always, is the glue, Steve.
What's going on, guys?
Hi, Steve.
It's been a busy couple weeks.
Yeah, we got lots of news. We have a jam-packed show today, so we don't. You guys will get a minimal amount of us fucking around this episode. We have a lot of stuff.
There's a lot to talk about, but don't minimize my fucking around because that is all of this show is.
That's why we're here. So we planned. Today is Black Friday. Day after Thanksgiving.
We hate, dating our episodes, but
yeah, whatever. Fucking around.
Do you want to know what exciting news is today, Cam? Besides being Black Friday?
That you ate some turkey yesterday.
No, we have merch day today.
It is merch day.
It is merch day today, Black Friday. And
I'm not tomorrow. Today. I'm
no, tomorrow too.
That's true. I'm not going to be a complainer. Thank you, brilliant developers for giving us our merch day. Yeah. And I'm actually super happy that the Merlin deck boxes still exist because I thought we just weren't going to get those. 2 days notice is a little tough.
Yeah. Yep.
That was a little tough.
I'm very broke right now. And I definitely wanted to buy the Merlin deck box, and I don't think I'm going to, or don't think I can, rather. So
we'll get that handled. Don't you worry about that.
But it's very cool. Very cool. The promos for Merch Day are very sick.
Yeah, they are super sick, and I am sad that I don't have enough to wail on.
FOMO is braining in the back of my head.
Yeah, I do want a null lantern.
I'm probably just gonna buy it.
I don't think they're gonna be that expensive.
No.
Maybe $20 or whatever.
Right. And even if it is expensive, it's gonna come down. All of the original product, unless you have the foil ones,
Clumsies and Vanguards and stuff.
Right, that stuff is expensive. But the uncommon or the non-foils are, cheapish.
I wonder. I guess it's a limited number of stuff because you don't get merch packs when you buy SP1, which is also kind of sad because that's the easy. That's where I dump all my money if I want.
Buy 10
packs.
SP1, right, get a bunch of promos.
But
I understand that's probably why they're
not doing it because everybody would just be like, "Yeah, I'll buy 10 SP1." They have too many promos. They're only I think the population on most of them is I think there's 1,500 of the non-foils, and then there's 900 non-foil null lanterns. They're a little bit rarer because they're material deck stuff. So that's not a whole lot. That means what? There's probably 10,000 merch packs or something. Anyways, today's merch day. But yeah, it's the holidays. Happy holidays, everybody.
Woo!
And Steve and I were planning for the holiday season to talk about all of the spoilers that we got over the first spoiler season because we really haven't talked about any of them. We didn't even really talk about our spoiler context of the card. So we decided that we're going to talk about spoilers, and that will probably take today's episode and probably next week's episode as well. But we've been getting way too much news to talk about. We have so much stuff.
We're we'll do spoilers, and then 15 announcements happened.
Right.
We're fuck.
Yeah, last week we had to talk about, the new bans and restricted list, and now we have all sorts of information about Ascent Worlds in May. We have the information for Nationals in March. It's a lot of stuff.
There's a lot of stuff.
So
we got a set 4 name announcement.
Yeah. So let's start with Ascent at Worlds in May, which is exciting for all of us that assumingly aren't going to be qualified for the World Championship.
Yeah.
So the format for Ascent Worlds is super excited. How do you feel, Steven?
I love team events.
Yeah, me too.
I love team events because I'm super bad at the game, so I can lean on the other 2 players I'm playing with.
Yeah, I really any card game that I've played, I've always been a huge fan of team events, and it is great to see it at such a large level. I feel like team events are usually
a side event.
Yeah, pushed to the side. They're not main events like Worlds, I guess not the main event, but you get what I'm saying. It is team standard for
it kind of
Worlds
is
this year.
A main event, right?
Well,
it's an Ascent.
Yeah, it's just not, the main event.
Right. If we win it, we still get
Water Spirit. We haven't seen her yet. Yeah. That's the word on the street. It's team standard. I guess it probably goes without saying, But the way that they've handled their team communication rules makes me quite happy as somebody who has played other card games with very bad team communication rules. So it's, ABC seat, standard team event, best of one, so no sideboards. And it is a team pool, so like the team only gets to play 4 copies of Creative Shock amongst the 3 of them, et cetera, et cetera.
Right, which
leads to deck diversity, which is great.
Which means, someone's playing water, someone's playing wind, someone's playing fire. You're not going to be all on the same thing, which is...
You can be playing Lost Spirit, if you want to.
Yeah, you're going to be playing a Lost Spirit?
Maybe. I was thinking about putting together a Lost Spirit deck today. Seeing some spicy Lost Spirit decks floating around.
So this is going to make me real mad. Because I talked about playing a Lost Spirit deck a couple of weeks ago, and everyone told me that I was crazy, and it was cope.
It is cope.
And I'm a terrible person for wanting to play Lost Spirit.
It's all true.
And now you're playing Lost Spirit?
Yeah, I don't disagree with any of those things you just said.
It
could be cool.
I hate it here.
Could be cool.
I hate it here. My Dawn of Ashes Lost Spirit deck was sick, and everyone hated on it.
Yeah, it sounds kind of sick. I don't know. Maybe you're like Van Gogh, like utterly unappreciated in your time.
Yeah, my deck will never be good until I cut my ear off and die.
Yeah, that one.
Sick.
So, anyways. Also, at Worlds this year is going to be the preview event for set 4, which is called Mercurial Heart.
Ooh.
So that's neat. I think something that I didn't notice until I reread this article the second time, which is just like big pog, is that it says at the bottom of the Mercurial Heart.
You can speak English.
It's a hard word. Mercurial is a hard word for me to say. It says, keep in mind that this launch event may be part of our list of late night festivities, which is super sick. I'm like...
Drunk sealed?
I'm very excited that hopefully it's like, yep, your oh my God, your Mercurial Heart event. Your MRC event is at 10 p.m. or something. I'm just like, I'll see you there.
You know what's gonna happen, right?
Yeah,
we're gonna be going to Fat Tony's
Tuesdays,
Fat Tony's.
Whoever Fat Tony is, though, you got to introduce me.
Yeah.
That guy, ooh,
well,
what a legend!
Used to be my cousin, but he lost a lot of weight.
Hey, congrats, Tony. You look great.
Fat Tuesdays.
Yeah,
surely I'm gonna be drunk off my ass at 10 o'clock at night.
Oh yeah, 10 o'clock. Oh yeah.
So I'm gonna sit down and play this MRC event.
Make a fool of yourself.
And I'm gonna crack open my pack.
Yeah.
And I'm just gonna biff the fuck out of the CSR.
Oh, sure. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I didn't even think about that. God. So I assume it doesn't say here, but the dates line up so that MRC is probably like shortly after Worlds.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll probably know like a large chunk of the set by the time we do this, but probably like how they did the preview events for FTC at some of the regionals last season, where we knew a good chunk of those cards. But yeah, super exciting. It seems like they're going out of their way to make Worlds a big deal, which is cool. I think it's... I kind of prefer that Worlds be a small event like it is for GA, as opposed to like something like, Flesh and Blood, where Worlds is it's a very attainable goal for most competitive players to go to Worlds. Not easy, but attainable. So almost everybody that's going to Worlds is playing at Worlds, and it's very much like a serious competitive atmosphere sort of thing, where this feels like, yes, of course, those 16 people will be like taking this very seriously, but it seems like the rest of the events are a little bit more laid back, and so hopefully people just go and have a good time. Obviously, it's in Vegas, so super excited. We will, of course, be there. You guys will see us there in beautiful, sunny Las Vegas in May. You know where else they'll see us, Steven?
Back in beautiful Houston, we have the announcement for Nationals, which is on March 2nd and 3rd in beautiful Houston, Texas.
Yeah.
You know what we weren't looking forward to?
We saw it coming. I think we've said it on the show too.
Yeah,
it's like
we've discussed it. We knew it was coming. We were really hoping that it was like going to be in like Michigan during the wintertime,
Right.
where we're comfortable with the snow.
Yeah.
And not in Houston, where it's 90 degrees at nighttime.
I mean, hopefully it'll be better since it's in March. I don't know how their seasons work. Do they have seasons?
I don't think
Their
so.
seasons in Texas?
I think it's just hell there.
So Houston being hosted by Game Guys is LGS down there. So yeah, we're going to
We will be there.
Solidar's backyard for nationals.
Hopefully we, I think we should all just like take a trip to 7-Eleven and get some slushies.
Yeah, get some pibs.
Yeah, double fist and
pibs.
double fist and pibs. And,
Shout out
and then
to our
door
boy.
dashing slushies. Yeah, sounds great to me.
I'm into that. So yeah, that's also right around the corner. We have lots of things coming up.
Yeah.
March, May.
Unfortunately, everything being so close together is now alienating me from wanting to travel to all of it.
Yeah, it's tough.
And not wanting to.
Expensive.
Affording to.
Expensive. It's expensive.
Yeah, I was toying with the idea because Ontario is in February, which is my birthday month.
Woo!
I was toying with the idea of like pulling for that trip and going.
Yeah.
But I can't now.
Yeah.
Because I have to go to nationals and I can't afford to go to both. Which, unfortunate, but the way she goes.
Yeah, I'm gonna look at flights and see if there's a way that I can swing all three of them. But it's a lot of travel in the first half of the year.
Yeah.
And the scary part is that I assume that it won't slow down particularly. So like we know all the events for the first half of the year. That doesn't mean that there's no events in the second half of the year, which
Correct.
we were like also sort of have to go to.
Correct.
So scary.
All I know is that tax refund as soon as I can.
I know, right? Yeah.
I need that money.
So, all of our exciting event news out of the way. I believe they have said that we're going to be getting more Ascent Worlds news every Friday for the next couple of weeks. I think we're supposed to get the ticket packages today. They're not going on sale today, but we're supposed to like see what they are. I assume they'll probably be pretty similar to the previous Ascents, but I don't know. It's Worlds. Maybe there's something weird. Maybe we'll see what the box is. That would be cool if they're going to make a whole article about announcing ticket packages. We saw that like TCG had a picture of that Parsonet deck box. Did you see that?
I did not.
It was when True Champion did their like 21-hour bans and restricted like tournament stream. They had a picture from Sil of the Parsonet double box. So I wonder if that's going to be, because I sort of assumed that was going to be a merch day thing, but now we know merch day is still going to be the Merlin box. So I wonder maybe that's the Worlds box. That'd be cute.
I am under the school of thought where I want the major events like Worlds and Ascent to be the single deck boxes.
Yeah, I think that's cool too. If they all match.
I really like the Nia.
Yeah,
and it's way more, or it's way easier rather to carry that around than it is to carry like the Sylvie deck box.
Yeah, I'm a psycho and I want somewhere to put my mini snaps.
Yeah, I see that.
So it's tough. They don't fit into that Nia box, but they do fit into the Sylvie box. So I'm gonna be a Merlin deck box enjoyer, I think.
I really want the Merlin. You know what I actually would really enjoy too? One of the Lorraine ones. But
yeah,
that'll never happen.
Those are kind of hard to find now. They're not like super expensive, but they are kind of hard to find.
Yeah.
Maybe someday. But what I want is an Ari box. Come on.
Maybe one day.
Maybe one day.
You know what I want? A shirtless Tony box.
Ooh, I don't know if they can
flip that open and just like it's like a pinup. I'm into it.
I don't know.
All right, let's talk about these spoilers.
So yeah, we have some spoilers to talk about. So we're gonna go over the spoilers that we've gotten for the first season of Content Creator spoilers. We're going to move past the level 1 and 2 champions because we discussed that when we talked about the design notes. If you guys want to hear us talk about the level 1 and level 2 champions, you can go find that episode of us talking about the design notes.
And we are going to touch on some of the actual cards from the design notes, because I think when we were doing the design notes originally,
Yeah, we just
kind of glazed through stuff. So we will be going into depth with the cards specifically, other than the champions.
And the way that Steve and I have thought makes the most sense, so that you guys aren't here for 3 hours, and so that we do not bury our editor Elise in work to do, that we're going to split. Probably we're going to talk about normal and fire today, and then we'll talk about water and wind next week. So, Steven, without further ado, what's our first card on the list?
Well, we're starting in the material deck, nice and strong. We got this gun. It's called Seeker's Rifle. It's a 0-cost Regalia weapon, Ranger gun.
Mm-hmm.
It's a 1 power, 2 toughness, durability. It's got class bonus, True Sight, class bonus, Spell Shroud.
Mm-hmm.
On kill, you can pay 2 if you do materialize a bullet from your material deck. This card seems sick.
Yeah, I think this is one of the ones that we saw in the notes.
Right.
Very obviously mirroring Sword of Seeking, which is cute. It's a 1/2 for 0 with True Sight.
I really like the fact that the gun has Spell Shroud. It makes it so like
they don't blow up your gun and you lose a game. Yeah.
Right, because like it's very from seeing what Diana's cards are.
Mm-hmm.
It seems she's very like I need gun or the gun is good type of stuff.
Yeah, I don't think we have any skills that interact with permanents right now, so it is pretty safe on the board. Yeah, it feels like Sword of Seeking on crack, right? Like you're going to be materializing this first almost every game, and it has the upside that it has, on kill, like pay 2 draw a card, which is pretty strong.
Yeah.
Or at least pay 2 skip a material step, right? So yeah, after that, we can move on. I think we'll save the fire card for when we talk about fire stuff.
Okay.
And we can move on to the TM32 spoiler, Academy Guide. So Academy Guide is a 3 reserve cost normal cleric animal human ally. She has 1 power, 3 health. Champion cards you materialize cost 1 less to materialize. This one has been quite the hot topic among our locals. I don't know that I've heard you talk about this card at all, Steve. How do you feel about this card?
I have talked about this card in depth, actually.
I just missed it.
It was mostly in our Discord chat.
Mm-hmm.
I think this card is fantastic.
Yeah.
This card is amazing.
That's a very reasonable take, I think.
I think this is one of those cards where you open it in your first hand and you play it and say, do you have the way to get rid of this card? No. I'm a free level 1 next turn.
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah, it feels like it's like Mirror World's Dungeon Guide, right?
Right.
Where this card is way better than Dungeon Guide on the first
3
turn
turns.
or 2 of the game, and then after that, Dungeon Guide, returns being better. Obviously, the downside that this card has over Dungeon Guide is this does not skip a materialize step. You don't out of sequence level with this. But I think you're right, where especially, at least in the game right now, we haven't seen nearly all of the cards in ALC, so maybe this changes. But in the game right now, on turn 0, turn 1, you play a 1/3. That is pretty difficult for most decks to remove, the only exception being like Fire Mage decks. But other than that, it's pretty hard for most people to remove a 1/3, especially if you have any sort of interaction. And obviously most creature decks are going to be playing some amount of Deflecting Edge, Resolute Stands, whatever, things to protect your 1/3. So I think most of the time this Academy Guide is going to break even. You're going to play her as a 1/3. She probably lives for the first turn, and she draws you a card, right? Because she levels you up for free. After that, she has to either trade with a removal spell from your opponent, or I guess like tempo, creatures attacking her, or they probably lose the game. Is what this card feels like to me. So I would say I think probably 9 times out of 10, she breaks even. You play her, she levels you up for free. You draw a card advantage. And then she trades for a removal spell, so she's just like a built-in 2-for-1. Mm-hmm. Or they don't have a way to remove this card, or like they're a creature deck and they're trying to beat her down with dudes, and you just have a Deflecting Edge or Resolute Stand. The second turn that she sits around, she gives you +2. She draws 2 cards, right? Or a second one, because your level 2 costs 1 less. I can't see how this card is not at least a consideration for most decks that are trying to win the game through card advantage, because unlike Dungeon Guide, the thing that this card does is it doesn't cost you anything. Like Dungeon Guide from 2 to 3 saves you a resource, but it still costs you 2 resources. She doesn't cost you anything to generate advantage. And something that is definitely worth talking about, and we will just mention it for our Trentons out there, is an animal.
Yeah.
Which is like wild.
Yeah. It's a cat girl.
Has a relevant card type. She's a cat girl. She's very cute too. So
she is very, very cute. But yeah, I was gonna actually bring it up in conversation here. This is amazing for Sylvie. She gets to level up and then doesn't lose resources, which is like Sylvie's biggest issue.
Mm-hmm.
Whoa.
Especially, in a deck with Bedivere, it's so easy to protect this card.
Right.
So, you play turn 1, you're going second, you can play turn 1 Bedivere Academy Guide pass. Yeah. And it's like, what are you doing about that,
Not much.
Because Bedivere turns on if you have another animal, right?
Yeah.
And this one just fulfills conditions. So you're like, I have 7 toughness on the board, 4 of which is taunt. Are you dealing with this? Surely they're not. And then you get to untap. They're still both on the board, and you have your entire hand to protect these 2 cards. And she probably just snowballs the game from there.
Right.
So yeah, I think there's a real argument for this deck this card in non-tamer decks, but in tamer decks, it just seems like a slam dunk to me.
Yeah.
Very strong. All right, Steve. So next on our list is, I suppose after these tokens, is a card that some big old dummies announced.
Yeah. I'm willing to accept my Oscar whenever for that performance, by the way.
Truly.
Anyways, so this next card is a 3 reserve cost, normal, unique Fantasia cleric spell. As an additional, or Dusklight Communion is its name.
Yeah.
We should say that before we get into it. As an additional cost to activate this card, banish an Astra or an Umbra element from your material deck. On enter, if the banished card was Astra element, destroy 1 target Fantasia. If the banished card was an Umbra element, Dusklight Communion gains champion. Champions get -1 level. How do you feel about this card, Cam?
I think no bias at all, of course, with, Arisana on the art and everything, and it being our spoiler card. I think this is maybe the most interesting card that we've seen so far, in that I don't really understand this card at all. It's got some applications, right? But the thing that I find so strange about this card, and the thing that I, as an aside, the thing that I like so much about us doing these spoiler videos is that we get to look back on this in 6 months and be like, wow, we're so fucking stupid.
Yeah. Well, I want to defend ourselves now against our future selves.
Yeah.
We don't know what Umbra or Astra do.
Right. So let's.
So we have a wall here because we don't know.
This one has a lot of text to digest, and that's why we have to split these episodes up, is because I'm going to talk way too much about all of these cards. So it is a unique Fantasia. It is 3 cost, and it is an SR, right? Mm-hmm. I know that rarity doesn't mean everything, but powerful cards are usually higher rarity. That's just sort of the way that it works. I know that ALC is not a limited set, but there's a reason they made this card an SR. There's a reason they made this card unique, right? And those are the parts that I'm not seeing. As an additional cost, you can banish an Astra or Umbra element card from your material deck. I think there's something to be said that maybe there is some sort of synergies there, that either Astra or Umbra cards care about being banished.
Or both.
Maybe they have some sort of clause where you can, play them out of banished, et cetera, send them back to your material deck, something like that, sort of like Intangible Geist, right? Mm-hmm. But the 2 effects, one seems a lot more straightforward than the other one. The first one is, this is a normal way to deal with Fracturized Lantern, right? Which is real. So fire erupting decks, at least looking at our current meta, this is a way for them to, just slot some random Umbra card into their material deck. They can play this, deals with Fracturized Lantern, they can do their shit like normal. That one seems pretty straightforward to me. The Umbra banish Dusklight Communion gains champions get -1 level is a very puzzling thing to me. This is a symmetrical effect, so you also get -1 level. And even though that is a generally powerful thing. This is a unique Fantasia, so you can't stack this effect. So, like, why am I playing a card that costs me a card out of hand, it costs me a card out of my material deck, and all it does is give you and also me -1 level? Seems wild to me that this would be at all something that you would want to do. So I think the part of this that we're not seeing is either like inherent Fantasia synergies. We have seen there's a card we'll talk about in next week's episode that has some Fantasia synergies. Perhaps, like I said, some way to utilize cards from Banish. So maybe this is a way to, you know, get access to a card that you could not have cast otherwise, or lets you out of sequence cast a thing. Or I'm stupid. That's all I got. What about you, Steve? How do you feel about this weird ass card?
With you, I'm very sick on just like, hey, I'm just gonna slot this random Astra card into my deck and kill any Fantasia I want.
Yeah, that part is good.
That's great. Unless Umbra is like super into like de-leveling everything.
Maybe. That might be what level 3 Diana does. We'll talk about her later too.
Yeah,
but
like I just don't. I'm at a loss.
it would be cool if it's like a whole deck of D-level effects, but there's just like a large portion of the game that doesn't care. If you're like playing against Mage and you're like, I'm a mono D-level deck, great. They probably don't like that. But against most other people, Warrior, Guardian,
Warrior kind of cares, right?
a little bit. Like you lose Banner Knight theoretically,
Right.
but that's it. You know? Then you just like get your Crystal of Empowerment and you're like,
All right, Square.
I don't care.
Sup, forehead. Shoot you anyways.
Yeah, so I'm really curious where that one settles.
Yeah. It's definitely one of those cards where it's like,
it's
on my radar, but
Right.
like I don't know why it's on my radar.
It's way too weird. That's the
Yeah.
thing for me. Like, why is this card unique and an SR if it's like not like some way inherently powerful and I'm just not seeing it?
Yeah. I think we're just missing too much of the puzzle
Too much
right
context,
now.
yeah.
It's just too much of the puzzle missing. But yeah, no, I want to say this card is going to be really good.
We will see. We'll come back. We'll
Yeah.
put a pin in this for when spoiler season 2 comes.
And when that card single-handedly like wins worlds, you can just like take this clip
just
of
clip
me
this in there.
of me saying,
I think that
this
card's
card's
gonna be really good.
good.
All right, so moving on. Our next card is Escape the Wreckage. It is a 3 reserve cost normal action ranger skill, fast. Return target ally you control to your memory. If you do, draw a card into your memory.
This card seems pretty good.
Yeah.
It's evasion for your strong allies, and it slow draws you. I think this card is fine.
Yeah, it's an interesting one where it fits in that sort of same spot as like Resolute Stand and Deflecting Edge, where it's a way to protect your creature at fast speed. The only difference is it does lose you tempo, but at the benefit of gaining you card advantage, right? Where Resolute Stand, Deflecting Edge, all of these things that protect an ally do cost you a card out of hand, and theoretically they save your ally on board, but you do go -1 to do that. This saves your ally on board, also replaces itself, but does so at the detriment of tempo because you don't have the ally on board anymore. So I think it's super interesting. I think this will see a lot more play with cards that have powerful on-enter effects, where you can sort of rebuy that on-enter effect and use it over and over again. Like this is wild with cards like Dungeon Guide, you know.
Yeah, I was also thinking like Dream Fairy.
Yeah, Dream Fairy, of course, resetting it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it seems pretty strong. 3 is kind of a lot of a cost, but I can definitely see this one.
No. It's just a generic good evasion card, right? Like you're playing an ally deck, you got to protect your certain ally.
It's just such a contested slot, you know.
Yeah.
So we will see.
So moving on, our next card is Into the Fray. It's a 2 reserve cost action guardian skill, fast speed. Up to 1 target ally you control gets +1 attack until end of turn for each other ally you control. And this card has class bonus Floating Memory. This goes along the same lines as I've been thinking for a while where our light just died, and Guardian is gonna be a very alpha strikey deck. I think it's gonna be protect, alpha strike you for game.
Yeah, it's our first sort of giant growth.
Yeah.
Which is strange, something that we haven't really we have like favorable wins, but we don't have a whole lot of things that instant speed pump power. So I think it is interesting in that it sits in that place. Obviously, that's floating memory, which is very strong. I think I'm like super unclear on how much play this will see. I think much like we talked about with Dustlight Communion, we just don't have all the pieces of the puzzle yet. This is obviously a much better card if we get more cards like Woodland Squirrels, like these really, really efficient smaller threats. There are some cards in this set that make 1/1 drone tokens, and I think it'll be really good with those as well. Yeah. All right, moving on, we have, oh my god, she's so cute. We have Navigate the Streets, which is a 1 reserve cost normal action ranger skill slow. Glimpse 1 plus X, where X is the amount of domains you control. Floating memory, and it's got Dahlia in the art, and she's so cute.
I love her so much.
I wish she was not a ranger card. Cringe.
Yeah, it's rough when the cute girl, you can't play in the cute girl deck.
So this card seems bad.
Yeah.
It's obviously a build around that we've got this sort of like domain tribal thing going on, which, to be fair, I think is super cool if it gets there.
Yeah.
Again, everything we're going to talk about today is missing some context, but I do really like the idea of a domain deck being playable, the Rite of Realm being playable. Like, they're printing a bunch of cards that are supposed to be for this domain deck, and I really hope that it's playable because it sounds super cool. And this card is fine in that deck. It's like basically Scry the Skies.
Yeah. I just really like the idea that you're like in the domain deck, like just like the thought of it. Right, because it's just like, oh, I'm mastering all of these spheres of existence.
Right.
I think it's
really super
cool.
I think they need some way for you to kill people. That's the part that I think we're missing.
I mean, maybe it'll just end up being like shrines and Magic.
Right.
Like we get the
we need the red
game.
one, right? Or the black one. Yeah. Like we need something that because a lot of them are really powerful effects. We get like, Dawn of Ashes is quite strong.
Yeah.
Gloam Spire, which is a card we'll talk about today, is quite strong. But like, you're not going to kill people with Avalon. Like, you're not going to, the mill win condition isn't real, you know?
You are spitting in Trangon's face.
Trangon, you'll maybe watch this and you know who you are. But man, it's cute, huh?
Yeah, she is very cute. Ooh, I just keep getting all the Guardian cards. I love that.
I'm doing it on purpose. I'm not.
No, it's just very
fitting.
Very fitting. So we have Organize the Alliance. It's a 3-cost action Guardian skill at slow speed. Target ally becomes fostered. Floating memory class bonus. Okay.
I think this card's terrible.
I think this card is pretty bad, except for the one interaction where you can just foster that wind ally.
It's true, and then it's like a pseudo draw card. You get the wind trigger to get an ally, and then this has floating memory. But like just foster her naturally. I don't know, like be Tony level 1 and have taunt. Like, you've done it. She's fostered. You know. I don't know. Not great, but hey, whatever.
Not all cards can be winners.
And much like you're getting all the Guardian cards, I'm getting all the ones with the cute girls on it. This is Plea for Peace, which is a 1-cost normal action Guardian skill slow. At the beginning of your next turn, players can't declare attacks unless they pay 1 for each attack declaration. So this is like a main deckable version of Terrafring, but a little bit worse. I also think this card is pretty bad. It's tough because it's so cheap, right? Like, it's a 1-cost, so you can cast it basically whenever. And to be fair, when you combine this with Terrafring, it is, basically just propaganda. It makes it impossible for people to attack you, basically at all. But the thought of including this card in my deck feels bad to me.
I think it's because, I don't know, maybe you're not thinking of the Guardian. So in my head, right, I have a very specific way I think Guardian decks are going to play. And I think this card fits in that theme very well.
I just think like if you're like this go wide board deck, where you're trying to keep these foster allies on board and get their beneficial triggers, right? And you're looking at your hand that could have been, 7 proactive cards, but one of them is a plea for peace. I just don't see where I want this card in a game where Terrafring already exists, where I don't feel like you really need this type of effect more than the one time that Terrafring does it for you for free.
I could see that, but I also can see having repeatable synergy effects like this seems all right.
Yeah.
Whereas there's a few times where your opponent has the board advantage, but they're rough on hand, and they're gonna win. But then you just play this card, and then you're like, okay, now I can squeak out an extra turn.
Yeah, it's very possible that this is somewhere in the sideboard realm.
Yeah.
If you think about aggressive decks like Fire Assassin, this is kind of backbreaking against those decks, especially if they're trying to set up for their Poison Dagger turn. Just them having to pay 2 or 3 extra mana is going to save you a lot of life.
Yeah.
And it's a little bit easier to cast this than something like Resolute Stand that fits in that similar role. So we'll see. We'll see how it shakes out. Ooh.
I got your potion. Potion of Healing. It's a 3 reserve cost item cleric potion. It has the ability called Brew. You can take 2 herbs and you can sacrifice the listed materials instead of paying this reserve cost. So if you have some herbs, you can just play this card for free.
Yeah.
You can sacrifice Healing Potion to recover 5. This card seems all right.
I think all of the potions to me feel super bad. I think does somebody clip out how many times I say that we're missing context? You guys know that we're missing context, but I don't know. Would you play Fast Cure if it didn't have floating memory, but it always recovered 4?
No.
And I don't think I would. Which is basically what this is. Yeah, sometimes it's free.
How many times have you ever cast Fast Cure just to get the float in your grave?
So many more. And yeah, obviously Fast Cure feels insane when you get the recover 4 and you get the floating memory, but I'm doing it for the floating memory. I'm not doing it for the 4 life. It's the 4 life is a bonus. So I think that all of the potions obviously will get better with I forget what their card type is, but the spells that make your potions better. So maybe some of those are inherently super powerful and you want to play something like Potion of Healing because it is basically free to put it on board. So if you're really just a means to an end to cast one of these infusion spells, this is a good way to do it because the potion is free, but so far looking pretty not great. The herbs themselves are actually pretty good. So I would kind of rather just have 2 herbs on board than have 5 life.
Sure.
All right.
It's kind of rough that the Ariasana Simp doesn't like the potion.
Well, I'm an honest man. Okay, so we're gonna get there eventually.
It's fun.
So our next card is a 2 reserve cost normal cleric skill action reconstructive surgery slow speed. Choose one. Put a buff counter on target automaton ally. Or level 2, return an automaton ally from your graveyard to your memory. So this is bad regrowth, gets back an automaton or puts a buff counter on it. I think you probably only want to cast this card if it is getting back an automaton. I don't think that 2 cost to put a buff counter on something is at all worth it. But 2 cost to rebuy something if there is enough powerful automatons is pretty good.
Yeah.
Level 2 is kind of a cost, but again, herbs are good, and you can sack one of them at level 1 to get level 2 to cast this card while you're level 1 instead of casting your Potion of Healing.
Fair.
Seems a little bit better.
All right. We got a very cool Domain Cleric Throne.
Mm-hmm.
It's a reserve cost 2 called Sanctum of Esoteric Truth. Whenever your champion levels up, you may put 2 cards from your hand and or memory on the bottom of your deck. If you do, draw 2 cards. This card seems not super great.
Yeah,
It's again in that slot where Domains are weird.
Yeah, there's a couple of these effects in Cleric as well. These like draw 2, put 2 on the bottom stuff. And I don't think that card filtering is like super important in this game. You think about that sort of effect in something like Magic, where you have so many dead cards in your deck because, lands is a bad resource system. But in Grand Archive, you're assumingly not like including very many bad cards in your deck. So like the strength of just filtering without card advantage feels pretty low. I think that's why we see so few people playing Orb of Regret still, because the filtering just really isn't that strong, and especially when it costs you, in that case, a material slot. But in this case, it's a card out of your hand. Again, unless like domain synergies matter. Something I do want to point out about this card, which is completely unrelated, but I do really like the flavor text on this card. I'm a big fan of all of the like mildly spooky stuff, and I really hope that Grand Archive at some point leans into some of this spooky stuff that they're kind of setting up. Refers to incredible and horrific secrets that are found in this weird underground sanctum. So.
Homunculus, maybe?
Ooh, could be cool. I know Dusklight Communion too. Something spooky's going on. There's some spooky stuff going on. I like spooky stuff. Moving on, we have this absolute Chad.
I love him.
Seasoned Shieldmaster is a 3 reserve cost normal ally guardian human. Whenever an ally you control becomes fostered, draw a card into your memory. Class bonus, fostered allies you control get +1 power, +1 health, and he is a 1/3. This card is fucked.
This card is amazing.
Yeah.
This is
wild card.
Every time, right? Yeah. Every time I read a Guardian card, I go, I don't ever want to play another deck.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that you're so psyched about it. This card's insane.
These cards seem so sick. Like, I just like the I'm going to put this dude out, and it's just going to synergize with all these other dudes that I have out. I think that's so cool. It's like humans, but if humans did something other than attack.
Right. This is our first actual Lord. And for those of you who aren't Magic people, that refers to a creature that gives +1/+1 to all of your other creatures. So this is our first Lord, and it's for fostered allies. Something that I didn't realize, and maybe some other people don't, or I'm just dumb, probably a little bit of both. For a while, is that I thought that fostered was a recurable state, but once something becomes fostered, it is fostered, and there's no way to unfoster it, which is worse for the things that have on-foster triggers, but way better for a card like this. Mm-hmm. That, just everything that gets fostered as long as it's on the board. Think about like these cards that sort of trade you up card advantage, right? We refer to Recruitment Officer a lot. We'll talk about her ad nauseum when we get there. But that when she fosters, she draws you a card, right? But after she's done that, she's a pretty low value target for your opponents to want to remove. But the fact that you have something like Seasoned Shieldmaster to make her into, like, I think that makes her a 3/4, I think she's a 2/3, is insane. That once they've already done their most impactful thing, they still leave behind like a super relevant body when this card is around.
Yeah. Okay, we're going back a little bit in time here. We got a little bit of an assassin treat. We got an action assassin skill reaction. It's called Sidestep, 2 reserve cost. It's a level 2+. This card costs 1 less to activate. Target ally gains stealth until end of turn, and it is fast speed. How do you feel about this card, Cam? Because
I think it's bad.
Really?
Yeah.
I just think it's another piece of evasion.
It's just such a contested slot, and like
yeah, well,
this is 1 mana fast, sure. Target ally against stealth. We've had Conceal in the game since the beginning, which is 2 mana fast. All of your allies gain stealth, and that card is not even remotely playable.
Fair.
So like I think unless stealth becomes like a much more relevant state to be in, which is possible, but it feels like to me, at least from what we've seen so far, we're moving more towards traditional removal spells that get around stealth, and we're moving away from solely creature combat, which means that a card like this is worse. 1 mana is pretty good, and I think this does have Crimson Rose on the art, and we'll talk about her today. I think she has some sort of stealth synergy, so if she ends up being super playable, then this card sees some play, but we can talk more about it when we get to her. what we got next? Oh, I gotta scroll by all these herbs. We talk about this one a lot too. This is a joke amongst our play group. This is Study the Fables. Is a 2 reserve cost normal action cleric skill, slow. Target player reveals 6 cards from their material deck. Draw a card into your memory. I know that not every card could be good. You know, you have to have some stinkers. And there's like a really interesting article from Mark Rosewater, one of the lead designers of Magic, about why bad cards exist, right? Because it's supposed to be a skill for people to determine what are bad cards. And it's great that I'm going on this speech because maybe this card is broken and I'm bad, but I can't see a world where anyone wants to play this card. What? It's you choose is the worst part. It's not even at random. So it's like, Steve, let me see your 6 least favorite cards from your material deck, and I will slow cantrip as a result. It's like, why is this card in your deck?
I don't know, man.
I don't know. It again. It's like maybe we get material deck cards sort of like Xander, right? I think that would be the cool part, where it's like material deck cards that care about being revealed. So you're like, I'll target me.
Oh, could you imagine? Like
which would be super cool.
Like a sick Luxem card that, like, if this card is revealed from your
material deck, you do
deal
something.
10 damage.
Yeah, and then this card would be busted. But I think in current context, the art's cute.
Art is cute. Next up, we have a supply drone. It's a 3 reserve cost ally ranger automation.
Automaton.
Automaton. I can't.
You ever
read.
play
Nier?
Nope. Automata?
I did not.
And people call it automata, and I want to strangle them to death. Yeah.
Oh. Okay. Well, I'm gonna call these all automatas.
Automatas.
Automatons. So it has a class bonus for ranger. At the beginning of your recollection phase, materialize a bullet card from your memory with memory cost 0 from your material deck.
I think this card's really good. And he's such a good boy.
Yeah, it's an 04, so it's pretty hard to get rid of. Even late game, it's pretty hard to get rid of unless you're mage. So, like, it's pretty good. It's a robot, so it's got the...
He's such a good boy.
It's got the Steve seal of approval.
Yeah, I think I really like cards, sort of like what we talked about with Seasoned Shieldmaster, that have intrinsic value but are pretty low value targets for your opponent to deal with, right? Like, if you want to spend a removal spell on this card, or if you want to, like, send a bunch of your allies at this 04 to deal with him, that's fine with me. Like, I traded tempo or I traded a card. But if you don't, he's going to get me, like, a very little but real piece of, like, incremental vantage every turn, where it's like, yeah, like, materializing a bullet is not, like, insane, but it's, you know, skipping a materialized step that I might have taken. And I get to do it every time that you don't deal with this guy. I think he's quite strong. Speaking of drawing cards and stuff.
And cute girls.
And the cutest girl. Unearth Revelations is a 1 reserve cost normal action cleric skill slow. Draw 2 cards, then put 2 cards from your hand on the bottom of your deck in any order. I don't know. Like, I feel like we're missing something. Especially now that there's 2 cards that do this. It's like, why are we doing this? You know, like it always feels like there's a means to an end, something that I'm not seeing, some sort of, you know, maybe it's what Star Calling does. Like, I don't know, some reason to be cycling your deck.
Maybe Star Calling says you can play cards from the bottom of your deck.
Maybe, yeah. Get that Grenzo Dungeon Warden shit going on.
Because you know, you draw 2 cards, put 2 cards at the bottom,
cool.
And then, like, cast one of the cards from the bottom.
So again, without context, I think this card is pretty bad. But I think that anytime I do, like, really believe in the development team, that anytime I see something and I think it's bad, unless it's, like, really truly awful, like Refurbish, I think I'm missing something, right? Like, surely, you know, there's some sort of design here that Siladar's cackling watching this is like, oh, they don't get it, you know. But yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's super great, but we'll see in the future. Hopefully, I get to play it because it's got the cute girl on it. So that's our last normal card from the base set. Do we want to do the trial deck normal stuff before we do fire?
Yeah, we can do that.
Whip down to so we're on the normal theme. Gonna whip down to our trial deck stuff and talk about some of the stuff. A lot of these will be a little bit weaker. We're gonna we'll mention them, but we'll glaze over any of the factual reprints that there are some of in these trial decks. But obviously, I think some of these cards will be weaker because they're meant to be in the starter deck.
Correct. Starting off, we have a Bulwark Sword, which is a Regalia weapon, Guardian Sword for 0. It has class bonus. Bulwark Sword gets +1 attack. It has, as an additional cost to use this weapon for an attack, pay 2. It is a 2 strength, 2 durability weapon.
Sword.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, speaking of weak cards, this is not one of them. I think this card's actually very good.
Yeah.
It's like a Warrior's Longsword that never costs you a card, right?
Correct.
Like, obviously, it costs you resources to attack with it, but it doesn't cost you card advantage, right? Whereas Warrior's Longsword does cost 1.
Yeah. The other thing to point out, again, is this goes along the lines with Guardian being more of an alpha strikey kind of deck.
Yeah.
Where it's like, hey, your weapon does incremental more damage.
I'm just thinking about this like a Doomblade, you know? Like, you have 2 mana, deal 3 damage is like super big.
It's relevant, yeah. Next card is Life Essence Amulet.
You guys know that one.
You probably know that one.
It's got new art.
It's got new art. It's very cute.
It's got some Astarte Celestial Dawn flavor text, so that's cool. But yeah, Life Essence Amulet reprint, and there's a couple more of those in the starter deck, but I'm glad that they're putting all of the reprints into the starter deck and not into the booster set.
Yep, same.
We have Plated Bullet, which is a 0 memory cost normal Regalia item, Ranger Bullet. It has Renewable, and Renewable says if this card would be banished from the field or as an intent or an intent. Intents are strange. Go look up your rules if you want to learn about intents. I'm not going to bother explaining that here. Put it into its owner's material deck instead. So anytime that it would be banished, it goes to material deck instead, which, again, harkens back to like Supply Drone. Will always have something to put into play because, renewable is kind of a busted keyword. It has tap, load Plated Bullet into target unloaded gun. Guns do have to be loaded before they can attack, and this is an attack for 2. So it's a free attack for 2 that always recurs itself. I think this is going to fit into that same like Ornamental Greatsword, Sword of Seeking, staple slot where it's not like overtly very powerful, but it's free and recurable and, will generate you advantage over a long game.
Mm-hmm. Now for a card that I personally think it has one of the is amazing art, I think.
Sure.
I love this card. This is a 0 memory cost Regalia item, Cleric Accessory, Scale of Souls. It is normal. It has class bonus, balance at the beginning of your recollection phase. If the amount of cards in your hand and memory are equal, recover 2. It's a okay effect. You can pay 2, tap it, return a card from your memory to your hand. This seems pretty good.
I think this card is sick. I've said a couple of times on the show that balance is my favorite mechanic in the game. That's obviously because I'm a simp. But I do think that it just adds a lot of play where people are talking about, how like busted Gildas is because they see Gildas on her turns where your opponent doesn't have to use their brain. But I think that balance math with Gildas and Lunette right now is like some of the coolest like most skill testing parts of our current meta, and I think Scale of Souls just adds another level to that, which is super cool. Means we don't have to play Woodland Squirrels anymore. We did it. Next, we have Evasive Maneuvers, which is a 1 cost normal action ranger skill reaction fast. Prevent the next 2 damage that would be dealt to target unit this turn. If that unit is a ranger, it becomes distant.
It seems pretty good, especially if Rangers stuff wants to be distant.
Yeah, so I think this, again, fits into that same slot we've talked about a lot today, this like ally protection slot. This, however, I think is one of the stronger ones. So I think this is the sort of card that edges out cards like Sidestep because this is super powerful. Yeah. It gives you a damage prevention, which is usually a relatively important enough breakpoint to give an ally survivability, and it also does give you a relevant keyword, where distant, there's a lot of things in the Ranger class that care about being distant, and this is like, think if this was a 1 cost prevent 2 damage, target ally becomes fostered, it would be broken, right? And it fits into that similar thing. The nice thing is it also is target unit, so you can target yourself, and it gives yourself distant because you are a ranger.
For Diana.
Yeah.
Okay. Now we get into the meat.
Look at that body.
Look at that body. So we have Heavy Swing, which is a normal attack guardian sword. It's 6 cost, 6 reserve cost. Class bonus. This card costs 2 less to activate. It's just an attack for 6.
Long dormant power fused into a single blow.
Yep. So here we are. We're sitting here with effectively a 4-drop, 6 damage attack, which is pretty nuts. Yep. I think this card is
4 for 6 is pretty good.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure this is
a decent rate,
a playable card that most Guardian decks are going to see.
Yeah, we'll see. I really worry with these like big. I go to level 2, Tony attack you for 10. Your Allen opponent plays Song of Frost like that. That's the only thing. I'm a little bit like.
I know. But hey, I'm very here for the Alpha Strike level 2 Tony deck.
Getcha.
And I'm gonna try it.
Make them have it. It's like I'll attack you for 12.
Yeah,
you got it.
I mean, like it's the same thing with like the like Rending Flames decks, right?
It's like just like make them have it.
Do you have it? No. Take 22.
And less interactable than Rending Flames. So, Our next card is Idle Thoughts. Boo. No new art. Reprint. Come on. What are we doing? No new Idle Thoughts art?
Yeah.
Guys.
You guys know exactly what that card does.
What are we doing? The one after that is a card that I've also come around on being much better than I thought it was, is Imperial Recruit. She is a 2 reserve cost normal ally guardian human. She has 1 power and 3 toughness. She has Foster, and Imperial Recruit gets +1 power as long as it is fostered. So when I thought Foster was something that you could go in and out of, I thought this card was pretty bad because like most of the time she's a 1/3. But if you play her on turn 1, sort of like what we talked about with Academy Guide, she's just a 2-mana 2/3, which is way above rate for the game that we're currently in.
Right.
Like 3-mana 2/3 is our best stat line that we have available to us right now. So a 2-mana 2/3 is sort of nuts.
Yeah.
And even a 2-mana 1/3 is pretty
and if you have her with Shield Master, she just gets better and better.
I know, yeah, it's insane. She's a 2-mana 3/4. Yeah. It's like what on earth? And she's cute.
And she's very cute. Next up, we have a 3 reserve cost normal ally ranger human, Imperial Rifleman. He's ranged 2, which is as long as he's distant, he gets +2 attack. Class bonus on enter, Imperial Rifleman becomes distant. It's a 1/2 normally.
Yeah, I think this is in that same slot, and it makes sense that they're both in the starter deck cards, where I also think this card is very powerful. Yeah, 3-mana 3/2 is a great stat line. And they get to stay there if you want them to for most of the game. I feel like the 3/2 is obviously going to probably trade on your opponent's turn. They're not going to stick around super long. 3/2 is not an impressive defensive stat line, but 3 power on an attacker is right now pretty unheard of.
Yeah.
For 3 mana. 3 reserve, sorry. Next, we have Martial Guard, which is a 2 reserve cost normal action, guardian, skill, reaction, fast. The next time target unit would be dealt damage this turn, prevent 2 of that damage. Class bonus, level 2, floating memory. Mr. Guardian player, how do you feel about this card?
I think this is mid.
I think it's terrible.
I think there's so many other things I'd rather be playing.
Level 2?
Level
2.
Right. Floating memory.
So tough.
Floating memory is there to be used early on.
Yeah.
And excuse me. Locking floating memory behind class bonus is one thing. Like, I can deal. But now you're locking it behind level 2, and it's not even that strong of a card effect.
Couldn't be me.
Yeah, I don't.
No, thank you, sir.
Probably won't be playing it.
Next, we have Novice Mechanist. She's a 2-mana normal ally guardian human. She has Foster. She has on Foster summon an automaton drone, and she is a 1/2. Back to you, Guardian player.
So we have Reposition. It's a 1-cost normal action ranger skill. Target unit becomes distant. Class bonus floating memory. This card is good.
Yeah.
It costs 1 to play. It's fast. You become distant. And it's floating memory. not locked behind level 2.
Right. Is locked behind class bonus, but I do think that the distant keyword is going to be important enough for Ranger that this card is probably good enough to slot in at least a couple of copies in your deck. It depends how you build it. You can probably build your deck not worrying about distant, but I think if you do, it's pretty strong.
Next up after that, we have a very cute Stalwart Shield.
Yeah, I like the new art a lot.
She way cuter.
Yeah. Well, they're both cute.
They're both cute, but I don't know.
She's way more mommy for sure.
I'm here for her. And then after that, we have Take Point, which is a 2 reserve cost normal action guardian skill. Your champion gains taunt until the beginning of your next turn. Class bonus floating memory. This is slow. I think this card will see play. I don't know in what quantity or in what variant of the deck, but I definitely think it will see play.
I think this card's kind of wild. I think it's quite strong. Your level 1 Tony gives you taunt, and every other turn other than that, you do need, you want a reliable way to keep your fostered allies from being attacked, and I think this is a great way to do that on turn 0, on turn 3, anytime that you don't have that Tony level 1, and it will, it'll cantrip itself because it's floating memory. I definitely think that if you're on the heavy foster deck, this will definitely get there.
And I think now we should just quickly touch base on the level 3s before we get into the fire stuff.
Well, yeah, I think we've gone way longer than we had intended to.
Yeah,
that's crazy. So maybe we're going to be doing this all holiday season.
Yeah.
Where I think maybe we should touch on these level 3s and then maybe do fire next week. Yeah, because. Ladies and gentlemen, we run a game store here, and I do have to open that store in 9 minutes.
It might be their longest episode.
So yeah,
luckily these are quick, and I'll let you talk about Ari first.
Yeah, we can spend our next few minutes talking about level 3 champions, and I think this part, like I said earlier in the show, the part that I enjoy the most about us talking about spoilers is predictions that we can make and that we're just super wrong about them. I think it's super fun for us personally to look back on in a few weeks when we're big old stupid.
Yep.
So, oh my Lord.
Look at her. Look at the girl.
Oh,
she's so there.
Anyways, this is Arisana Astral Zenith. She is our level 3 trial deck Astra Cleric Human champion. She has Arisana Lineage, and she has 25 health. Once per turn, you may pay 0 reserve cost rather than paying a card's star calling costs. What do we think star calling is, Steve? This is the fun part. All 3 of these champions that we're going to talk about have text that means absolutely nothing to us. So we gotta lock it in now.
All right.
What do you think star calling does, Steven?
So it says once per turn you may pay 0 rather than pay a card star calling cost.
Yeah.
All right. So the fact that it's a 0 reserve cost, right,
means
that whatever star calling cost is going to be a thing that you can continuously pay every turn.
Oh, interesting.
So I'm assuming this is some sort of astral stuff that is going to have certain effects that you have to pay for to activate every turn.
Interesting. I was under the impression, what my brain went to is that star calling is a kicker cost. And this, kicker, for those of you who don't play Magic the Gathering, is an additional cost that you can pay when you cast a spell. And if you pay the additional cost, you get an additional effect. So I was very much under the impression that these were going to be pretty mid cards. Think 2 mana draw card that has 4 kicker to do something. 4 star calling to do something more impactful. So I was under the assumption that we're doing free kicker costs, but it would also be very cool if it was Fantasias or something that stay in play that you can pay a cost for every turn to do something. Interesting.
I didn't even think about kicker. That would make sense.
Interesting. All right.
So next up we have Diana Duskstalker. Ooh, she's an Umbra champion ranger human with Diana lineage. On enter, she becomes distant. Ooh, that's good. On champion hit, generate a creeping torment card and put it at the bottom of a champion's lineage. What do you think Creeping Torment card is?
I think this goes back to the discussion that we had about Dusklight Communion. I think there's a possibility that she is like that. Umbra as an element is about giving people subtracting levels from champions, and then some of their cards have reverse efficiency, where they like do extra effects if your target is level X or lower. My assumption is this: it puts a token at the bottom of the hit's champion lineage that gives them -1 level.
I was gonna think the same thing.
Nice,
honestly.
Nice, good brain.
So I think that's where we are with Diana. I think
we're wrong.
She's going to be using whatever she's doing to debuff the shit out of
super cool
the
though
opponent, and then shoot with the gun.
I'm a big fan. I want to give people a big old stack of creeping torments.
The last one we're gonna touch on briefly, which is probably the easiest one to guess what it does.
Really? Okay, sure.
I would think.
Sure. Okay.
Which is Tonorus Genesis Aegis, which is a Neos champion guardian human. With
30 life.
With the Tonorus lineage, with 30 whole life.
Big boy.
He big. He chonky. At the beginning of your recollection phase, choose one that hasn't been chosen. Summon an obelisk of armament. Summon an obelisk of fabrication. Summon an obelisk of protection. I think the obelisks are going to be similar to weapons.
Sure.
I think the armament token is going to maybe give you a sword every turn. Mm-hmm. I think maybe the obelisk is going to give you, or the fabrication is going to give you a drone token every turn. Mm. And I think that the protection is going to maybe put a buff counter on something. Those are my assumptions.
Interesting. Yeah, I think that makes sense. I assume that they will probably be allies, I think, is the way that it fits best with the Guardian identity, is that they will be like O4s or something, sort of like Supply Drone, where they give you incremental advantage every turn, but you do have to protect them. Because I thought maybe they'll be like O4s with Taunt, but I think that goes against what Guardian is supposed to be doing, where it's Tonorus is the one that's supposed to be protecting stuff, and multiple instances of Taunt don't stack well together. I think you're pretty spot on, where they'll give you incremental advantage every turn, as long as you can keep them on the board.
Yeah. But with that is the trial deck champions.
So that's all of our normal cards that we have so far, and that's all of our trial deck level 3 champions. We were going to cover fire cards, but we're already running pretty late. That just means more content for us to record, more content for you to watch, the beautiful viewer. So next week we'll dive into fire. We'll see how long that takes us. The normal cards were pretty big, so we might be able to get through two elements next week.
Quite a bit of them. So I think we could squeeze fire and water together, maybe.
Yeah, we'll see. The water list is actually pretty small right now. And by the time, this several week journey of going through all of the spoilers, we'll just get more, and then I'll be like, what do I do?
It's perfect.
So much content to shoot, which is great.
Yeah.
We're
never going to complain about having something to talk about.
Thank you for feeding us Silidar. We appreciate it.
Yes.
So a couple of pieces of housekeeping. Hopefully this will come out before then. We do have our regional coming up as of recording now. It's next week, December 2nd, Northeast Regionals here at Webway Games. If you are in the area, if you have any questions, feel free to hit me up on Discord, hit me up on Facebook, hit me up on Twitter or whatever. I'm happy to answer any sort of questions. We hope to see you all there. It's going to be, I'm stressing out. So
we're vibrating.
We are vibrating very quickly.
Yeah.
Of course, we'll see you guys at all of the things. As usual, thank you guys for watching. Steve, is there anything else we got to tell the people?
Happy holidays, everyone.
Hey, happy holidays, everybody. We will see you next week for some more spoiler goodness.
Woo! Have a good one, guys. Let me get a